Start the debate then. I'll call upon the Prime Minister to begin the debate. Here.
Checking if I'm audible.
You're audible.
Okay, for PI references, we have written it down on the chat box. So glad we made it to final. I will begin my speech in three, two, one. First thing first, here is to clarify. Our stance is like we're assuming under this motion because that we assume if we can escape, we would opt out. Because opt out meaning you were given the chance to take it or opt out. If we were sorry, we would opt out of this time loop. We would not take it. We would not let it manifest like that. Now the characteristics is like Jonathan is obviously the husband. He have his own mindset and everything. He's just another dude, another person. But the time loop then began to happen once Tore, who grieves so deeply and deeply wounded by the by his death. Even though it gives an impression of on how it revolves around around Sore saving Jonathan, or like around Jonathan dying and he have to be saved. It actually revolves around Sore, who unconsciously failed to let go and is allowing Jonathan to be her world for the whole movie. Now, what Sore is facing is grief. Grief is like when you feel so deeply lost, or like you have this deep hole of sadness, deep hole of something like because your significant other is passing and they're pulled away from you. And Sore grieving is showing a hardcore manifestation of this dependency. In the movie, it shows that she is very people pleasing because she always tries to do what is best for the other people. It's okay, but it's becoming problematic once it harms their own selves, resulting to her disappeared into thin air when she actually ran out of time to change from trying to change Jonathan's decision. Ideally, love is supposed to be where you share the same world and letting a person be that world. Tore has a lot of internalized guilt, and she knows who she is marrying into and what are the possibility of the outcome of that person is. For example, when you marry someone who is maybe I'm sorry, who is depressed, you know that they may have like an episodes of depression, or like the episodes of days where they just cannot get out of bed, or like days where they just cannot go out and play and see the sky, and it will impact their own health. And Sore knows this because I think she was boyfriend and girlfriend for some time, and she marries that guy anyway. And I don't know, and we don't really know if Sore actually tries to change his lifestyle or not. But at the end of what underlined is like Sore knows that this is what the consequences is. Jonathan died because of his own consequence. So why should we opt out? Time loop means you're allowing your time and energy of to just save a person, and it means that you're not gonna enjoy that time looping. Imagine time looping just to save a person to fix their mistakes, but not fixing your mistakes. I would like to be given a time loop if it were meant for me to fix my grades, for example. But this time I have to save someone who basically dies because of their own consequences and their own decisions making. And second is like we should opt out because people dies anyway. If Jonathan doesn't die now, he's gonna die later in the day, even if he was quote unquote healthy, because fate is just like that, because death is just like that. Jonathan is just a husband who dies because of his own consequences. He's a heavy smoker, I think, and that is his business alone. Even in the movie, Jonathan never said anything before his death, like he regrets the lifestyle, or like how he hopes he was safe and etc. etc. We are not heroes. Sora is not a hero, and even heroes tries to save people who are actually threatened and not doing the harm to themselves. It's a very self-destructive behavior of Sore by if she allows the time loop to happen. By allowing this to happen to yourself means that you will be losing part of yourself, because it's not even about you, girl. And it's not the end of the world for us to actually live our own life after Jonathan death. Life still goes on, and we can still be sorry even without Jonathan. Like in some part of the movie, we have been told that she is a great designer and she's wonderful and etc. In the first place, even though Sore have a very deep questionable love, because it's like it's rooted on dependency to Jonathan, she still marries Jonathan again. She knows he's been smoking. She accepted that. And she shouldn't be the one who regrets the consequences of to the point that she have to go back in time. She is beautiful. She can find herself after she is done with the grief. She may grieve, but in a healthy way, because not letting go results in you losing yourself. Now, how would we opt out? Simply by living for ourselves and basically let go. The time loop again happens because technically sorry involvement and decision to jump in and try to save Jonathan and change his lifestyle. Even though she have a very, very deep love for Jonathan, but she would know that Jonathan also loves her that much that he would want her to continue her life. If it's grief, she could just go to therapy group or like counseling session to help her cope. The time loop begins when she was so deeply hurt about it anyway, like when she was just like, I think she was praying to God or something. And it stops once Jonathan approaches her. Once Jonathan is the one who suddenly approaches her. She haven't done anything at that scene or part of the movie. At the end, it's about how she cannot control Jonathan anyway, and it's about how she can only control her own life. So when we opt out, we would go for like go to therapy, go to any counseling session, go find psychologists because we know that we have this dependency on Jonathan as our lover. Before six, is there any POI for clarification maybe?
I think you forget the fact that you love Jonathan, and moving on with your life probably entails you forever regretting the fact that you had the opportunity to spend more time with him and you through this. Please weigh this regret against your case.
Okay, thank you. Now, for example, yeah, I love my dad. He dies early in my age of life. But does that mean I will not let go of him? Does that mean that I love my dad bigger than I love myself? Does that mean I love my husband bigger than I love myself? She should be the one who loves herself more. It's a very questionable love because it's rooted from her dependency to be with Jonathan. If it's love, she would let go because she knows that if she just keeps suffering, if she just keep holding on to that grief, Jonathan would feel sorry for her and would feel like unsafe or like very, very like, oh no, why are you doing this to yourself? Oh no, you're mentally unhealthy. She should be loving herself more. She does love herself more. She would love herself more, and that would opt her out from this time looping. So if you were to say that she really, really loved Jonathan that deeply to the point that she would save him every time, is it really her loving her, or is it just her being so dependent on him to the point that she thinks that she cannot live without him? So that is why we are proud to propose. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Let's move on to first negative here.
Am I audible and visible as well?
Yes, to both.
Okay. Thank you. For POI, just unmute yourself because I will not look at the chat. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. We think that government is still lacking in the way or like a mechanism of what opting out actually looks like, and we will actually fill that hole in. First, let's look at how opting out will actually look like in this scenario. Two ways. First, you give up on Jonathan, live with him, and then die. Like meaning you don't try to better his bad habits, you don't try to make him live a better life, and after he dies, you just continue your life. Second, you basically opt out by not meeting him completely. Basically, you have all the knowledge from the previous time loops you have with Jonathan, and you deliberately avoid meeting him and just basically to not try to interact with him in a way that basically will make you like marry him in the future, basically living your own life free of Jonathan and free of your ties with him. Why is this bad then? Why is opting out of this mechanism, why is opting out from having you to see like someone you love die all over again is actually really bad? First, we have to see at like how love actually looks like and how like this time would actually like be able to be present in the first place, because I think government still fails to like explain that to me. First, let's look at like why is bad. Because when we look at and when we circle fact and we look at the inherent like core of the reason like why we have this time loop, the fact that the universe is giving us a chance to be able to spend more time with someone that we love, more opportunities to be able to live and grow up with someone is something that is like we're going to be throwing away. Just why this is bad? Because again, we are throwing away opportunities to be able to live a life with Jonathan. We're throwing away like ways to be able to prevent his death. We're throwing away like the possibility of actually growing old with him. We're throwing all of this away when you choose to opt out of the of this time loop mechanism that I've explained to you about. Again, we're given many choices to be able to actually have a life with someone that we love. And this is what we're throwing away by not opting into the time loop. Because again, panels, imagine being in love with someone, being so in love with them to the degree that you are willing to go through time loops after time loops, life after life. You're all going through the hoops and difficulties of each time loop to finally be able to find the one time loop where your love, in this case Jonathan, will be able to grow up with you and actually spend time with you. Love basically makes you like able to do this. They are actually like bracing you to the point that, oh, like what is going to happen to Jonathan. But this is fine because again, you love Jonathan so much. You love this one man so much to the point that the universe is giving you a chance to actually have a life with them, to actually grow old with them. This is basically like what you're trying to throw away by not opting in of the mechanism. By opting out, you're basically throwing away the fact that the universe is giving you a chance, that the universe is basically giving you more time with him. Because again, by opting out, we're throwing away the chance again that there's a possibility in which Jonathan lives, grow old with us, and doesn't die of cardiac arrest by the age of like 35. The be on our again. Let's look at what will happen when you actually opt out, when you actually live in a government side work, when you're sore, for example. Forever, when we choose to opt out the sore, we'll all be wondering of the what if, of the possibilities. We're always going to be haunted by this because obviously, when you know that the universe is basically bending time and space just for you and for your love, how can you forget that? We're forever going to regret about all of this. We're forever going to regret this. We're forever going to be haunted by the possibility, even if we quote unquote move on from Jonathan, even when we are living our own life, you're always going to be haunted by the what if it's just one more time loop. What if in the next chance I can like actually be this and that? You're basically throwing all this away. You're throwing away the chances, even when you just opt out, you're still going to be haunted by this like premonition or whatever. This is the benefit that you're going to lose when you actually choose to opt out. The benefit that you're actually able to actually save someone you love, when you actually like you can spend like more life with someone that you actually love. Because again, the harms is that you'll basically be haunted by the fact that maybe it is just one more time loop. Maybe I can do things better. Maybe what if? It will haunt the life of your life. Your life won't be actually as easy as what government is trying to portray later. So what does it look like on our side of the house when you actually are opting in, like the movie? Obviously, we will stay in the time loop. We're trying to find ways to be able to actually save Jonathan. And why is this a better way and more beneficial than whatever benefit that Goff is trying to bring to you? Because again, one, you're not going to be haunted for the rest of your life about the what if. You're not going to be haunted by the regret. Because again, will you, so Asore, will able to actually live a peaceful life, a life where you actually know and you actually be happy to know that there's someone you love can actually be safe? Probably not. Especially again, when you know the fact that the universe is granting you this time loop, when the universe is basically giving you another chance to actually be with someone you love, you probably just like won't be able to live a life that is actually going to be like quote unquote better or like livelier, I guess. And secondly, why even in the time loop? Why with all the pains and grief that we'll actually experience? Why is it still better? Because secondly, you can actually live a life where you're going to be able to live a life, actually spend more time with someone that you love. Because again, Jonathan is someone you love so much to the point that you are able to do it right. Because again, you get to spend hundreds of thousands of time of actually spending time with someone that you love. Even if you don't, at the end, you don't find the correct time loop in which Jonathan lived the past year, you're still able to actually spend more time with him. You're actually able to actually like spend this more time with him. Because again, others would kill at the chance being able to prevent like their lovers or like their loved ones be able to actually spend time with someone you love.
Wait. Okay, I thought it was me.
Hello?
Yes, you just
Tadi
got cut off.
sampai mana ya?
For me, you still have 604, I would say. And I think you
Okay.
just finished a sentence like with someone you love. That's what you say.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
You have like a minute
Okay,
left,
for sure.
a minute and 10.
Okay, cool. Okay. Okay, restarting my speech in whew, 3, 2, 1. And now you're actually able to spend more time with someone you love because again, others would kill at the chance of being able to prevent their loved one dying, to be able to prevent like things happening, and to be able to actually spend time with someone that you love. For example, I'll take myself for example, me and my own father. I'll take any chance to be able to have more time with him, knowing that I don't have to be fatherless for like 5 years when I lost him at like 16. I will kill at the chance to be able to actually live more times, even though I actually quote unquote know the outcome. Kill to be able to do this because now I can actually spend more time with him. This is something you're actually throwing out. This is something, and these benefits are something you're throwing out when you're actually opting out of the loop. When you are opting out of the loop, you're actually throwing out the benefits of actually having to spend time with someone you love, even though, yes, you know the outcome. Because again, when you love someone, to the point that the universe is changing the way it works for you, when you're given multiple chances to be able to save someone you love, all the pains, all the grief, all the hurdles, difficulties you're going to experience, all the emotions would actually be worth it just to be able to spend more time with someone you love and actually finding the one time loop where we actually live.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Let's move on to our second affirmative to respond to the case of negative. You're here.
Okay, am I audible?
Yep, you're audible.
All right.
Wait, actually, can you try speaking again?
Oh, how about this? Is this okay? Or this is preferable?
I would say the second one should be preferable. Does anyone else agree? Yeah, I'll keep it in the second part. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. Okay, so happy to be in grand final, and I'm going to. Oh, for POI, just unmute yourself. I'm going to try to engage with it. Going to through debate in three, two, and one. The time loop was never going to help Sore to grieve and to gain confidence in thriving in life without Jonathan. What is important here is on how Sore will be re-establish herself after her pain of seeing Jonathan died in front of her face. Because he already died anyways. You can't change him because he's so reckless and never listened to you when he's actually alive, and also when you're actually living with him in the time loop itself. Under the possession, Sore will be untangled with a lingering feeling of losing Jonathan. Anyways, there is no side of how she could actually reclaim herself. She will be forever depressed, for example. But moving on to our response then. First thing, love characterized by opposition is absurd dependency of a dead ex that will never affirm at you anymore because he's dead. At least under our side, we have the chance to move on by going to therapy. This is our mechanization to opt out by seeking our own identity, seeking about what can we do and find our reason, purpose in life, as sort of example. Because under our side, we were going to be fulfilled by the love of ourselves. Under opposition, they're going to be dependent from the love of Jonathan, which is actually they will never experience anymore after the time has ended, right? Second, then they're trying to fix Jonathan. I think it's not the best way because we already did it in the past life when Jonathan is actually alive. So why should we do it again when you're actually going to replay the same mistake from the second chances, for example? And then thirdly, they say that we have been giving the opportunity to have more time for Jonathan, for example. It's not the best one since after the timeline in the movie, you perish from existence, meaning that you will be forgotten by the society. Or if we treat this mechanism as a dream, then it's just a dream scenario that you will crave for more and desperate to experience it again because the loop has time limit because then at the end there's too much time you consume and it's going to over anyways. So at least under the movie, you're going to perish. You will be no longer in the house. And you'll be no longer in the world anyways. But if you treat it as a dream, then it's just a fake reality, right? What is actually pricing about that? But moving on to our argument, then I think firstly it's about emotionally and mentally disturbing for Sore, right? I think imagine being Sore trying to fix your partner, but in the end you actually failed and something like that. From the very first place, Jonathan's death was because of his bad lifestyle to harm himself with smoke and drinks. Means that he's the one who should be responsible for his own death. And then, uh, opting in the time loop means that you as Sore is going to take this as a responsibility to help Jonathan and make him alive again, or to see him live better in this time loop. This is actually having no impact towards Sore's future life, for example, or whatever, because simply this is just a dream, or there is some kind of like a reality, a fake reality, and there's no benefit coming to Sore in terms of like fixing Jonathan's life, or to revisit him anyways, right? And then next one is that let's see what happened if she never actually succeed in changing his habit. What happened is clear. She will feel the guilt for not being able to save him, or even worse, she will have the survivor's guilt, for example, simply because, oh, okay, I have been given the chance to make him relive for a better condition in this reality, but I fail. When I fail, I will blame myself like, oh, okay, I have two chances, yet I broke all of it. In terms of that, in terms of like the guilt of survivor's guilt is going to appear under opposition, right? Yes.
Won't the same guilt also exist on your side of the house when you opt out, when you know Jonathan can live can live?
No. Survivor's guilt is not going to be it's not going to be appear under our side, simply because we know that, oh, Jonathan died because of himself. Under your side, you know that Jonathan died because of you weren't able to save him. Because it's actually pretty clear about how responsibility is actually going to hang you when you actually fail it, right? And then moving on. Uh, and then, oh my God. And then on our side, and then in the end, this will leave an unfinished business for herself, for example, simply because, oh, okay, in that time loop, I'm supposed to fix him or whatever. Under the scenarios of living this life, of living this time loop, you're going to be desperate and everything because you cannot even fix Jonathan, even when granted by the second chances. On our side, we opt out. We will focus on ourselves by fashion designing, which is Sore's likelihood of future career, for example, or something else to find to find a purpose in life, to gain new lover, for example, or even trying to actually build love within herself and whatsoever, to actually create the independency towards her life, that her life is not limited to Jonathan only, but her life is about her, and so on. I think in the interest of Jonathan, when he died and everything, he doesn't want to see Sore in a bad condition of being desperate to get him alive again, when in reality, she couldn't even get him to reincarnate, for example. Under these reasons, in the interest of Jonathan, he wouldn't want Sore to be stuck and everything. And also in the interest of Sore, probably it's not always about how love is actually going to consume you, because under opposition love is going to consume you, but under our side at least you have full control about what is to love, and in this case we are going to love ourselves as Sore, right? And then second one, or lastly, opting in the loop means you are going to start from scratch. We know PDKT is hard phase where you need to claim the trust of Jonathan, for example, where he is all rock hard and reckless and everything. This is ruthless for Sore to relieve again this burden, to gain the trust from someone who trusts you the most, but now have zero trust towards you right now. This is exhausting because, oh my God, I have built him blocks by blocks, and now he forgot about me. I think this kind of like feelings of being treated as a traitor, for example, and something on being forgotten and everything is going to appear under your side, simply because you have to work through these phases of how reckless Jonathan is and how you are going to unconditionally love him, for example, and so on. But but what happened with opting out? We will just be thankful of every moment that Sora and Jonathan have encountered. Yes, we still have the memories. We doesn't need to relive it again. We always have the memories of pictures or whatever and so on, social media posts, Instagram and whatever, and so on. It's about how you're actually going to be appreciate, like, oh, this happened. I really love him, and so something else. I doesn't have responsibility to keep you alive or whatever, because we are a two separate and different autonomy, different body and everything. Hence why we do believe that Sore is better off with Jonathan, even though she loved him that much for love reasons. Yeah. Proud to be in the grand final. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Small clarifications. So the government team did send the speaking orders with Farrell as first speaker and Tenri as second. Is that still correct? Since the names in the Zoom chat, the Zoom uh, s- participants were different. So I just want to make sure for the government team.
Oh my God, yeah. It should be Tenri first and second goes to Farrell. I'm so sorry.
And it's okay. So reply should be Farrell as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
All
correct.
right. Okay, thank you. All right, we can move on to the second negative then. You're here.
Let me see. Okay. Pronounce he, they. POI, please unmute. I will take you. Okay. Starting my internet has been like incredibly shit. Surabaya has like some issues. I don't know. So if just be ready to pause the timer in case I also disconnect. Starting my speech in 3, 2, one. As someone who subscribes to the idea of being a hopeless romantic, I often look at all of the things that I inherited from my predecessors in the past as a source of hope and inspiration, right? I read In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust and feel giddy in my heart because I know that 200 years ago, a Frenchman also fell in love. He also experienced all of that beautiful feeling of seeing someone's face on your ceiling at night, of looking forward to nothing but to see them and touch their hand and look them in the eye and plan your future together, and that this silly little Frenchman was moved to such an extent by this feeling that he wrote a 500,000 word novel filled with beautiful aphorisms and passages such as like, your eyes are stars, your lips are home, you make my life worth living. I learned about the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, who literally commanded an entire state, who could have waged wars or accrued wealth, but instead wasted all of his powers to grieve Mumtaz Mahal, to use the people who will obey his command and the gold in his coffers to transform the face of the earth and build a garden and palace so beautiful because he loved his wife and she deserves nothing but to be commemorated with the sum of all of his powers. Hence why we have the Taj Mahal today. I look at the way Claude Monet paint Camille and feel his love through the canvas. I read the poetry of John Keats and understand what it is to love, it is to live. What every single one of these hopeless romantic have in common is that they do all of these grandiose acts that literally change the world and add meaning to it, that we can still see and read and touch and visit today because they are desperate for time. As a lover, I recognize that I am experiencing something beautiful and sacred and tender that I want to immortalize through my art, through a sacrifice of time and energy and resources so great that the world cannot help but notice. And I do this with the hope that in the future, when I inevitably die and every atom of my being have been obliterated, at the very least, some kids centuries in the future will know that I was here and I love this person. What has happened to you as Sore is that the universe essentially recognizes that you love, that the love you have for Jonathan is so pure and holy and whole, indeed that it is willing to give you a luxury which it has denied every other lover in human history, the luxury of infinite time. For government to suggest that you will want to, or that it will be better for you to reject this gift, is for them to fail to properly account what love is and why you would do all of these things for love. Two arguments in this love letter. One, I will prove to you that moving on, which is like their main thing, is only possible when there is no other choice for you as a human. This time loop constitutes a choice. But second, I will also prove that no matter how you characterize the time loop, you gain enough benefit from staying in it to offset whatever harm is possible when you opt out of it, right? So first argument, why moving on is only possible when the time loop is not an option, and why the fact that you are offered this time loop means you will not want to choose to move on. Prime Minister essentially says that Jonathan made his choices. You should just accept that his death will be the consequences of his choice, accept that you won't have much time with him, and like just build a meaningful life independent from him. This largely matches the way we deal with grief in the status quo, because we all just have to accept that people die and there's nothing we can do about it. But you do have something to do about it. You are able to go back and meet Jonathan for the first time again. You are able to tell him that he will die at a younger age than Audie when he eventually graduates from UKP, and that maybe if he stopped smoking and drinking, he won't. I think we only accept the injustice of that, of not being able to spend more time, create more memories, and plan out a future of our with our loved ones, because there is no other choice other than to accept it. This is the kind of overwhelming grief and overwhelming survivor's guilt that government characterizes. But this time loop will erase all of that grief because you now know, at the very least, at the start of the time looping, that you do have something to do about it and we will want to take it. Second argument, no matter how you characterize the time loop, you gain enough benefits from it because I think it's very clear. Regardless of whether or not you stay or leave, the story that has gone through 1,000 different time loops, 1,000 different Jonathan's death will not be the same story as the story right after Jonathan's first death. Three possible manifestation of this time loop. First is that you continue to fail because Jonathan doesn't listen, and eventually you just accept defeat. You accept that no matter how hard you try, he will die young to cardiac arrest because he will always drink and smoke behind your back, or maybe the universe will come up with a new cruel way to kill him. We say this is fine. I don't think your love for Jonathan is dependent on him not dying or him fixing himself. After all, the first time you chose to marry this person knowing that he smokes and drinks. So that means that there is something about him that you love, right? Maybe the way he looks, the way he acts, the way he makes you comfortable when you talk to him. So that means eventually you will just take the loop as the win that it is. More time to spend with Jonathan and imbue in all of these values. To try different ways to convince him to be healthy, to maybe not try at all, to maybe be a housewife in one loop and an ambitious career woman in another, to make him the house husband in one loop, or to let him pursue his love of photography in another, to do all of these things that you think you would like to try and see with him. Even if this world is fake, which I don't think matters, right? I think it's ridiculous for government to try to fiat that the time loop world are somehow less valid than the non-looping world because Sore has to live through all of them in an equal way. The experience is real. The benefit of this world is not the outcome of fixing Jonathan. It is the possibility to try to fix Jonathan at all, and the possibility for you to spend more time with him and cherish that time and the time that you get to spend with him regardless of the outcome. But second, then, let's say the worst case scenario is true for opposition. It is not possible to change Jonathan. He will always die. I think this is actually fine, right? I think you should also consider the possibility of him not dying for this debate to run. But even if you are doomed to repeat this for eternity, and the comparative for Sore is clear, right? Choose eternal torture of seeing Jonathan die over and over again, or move on and have an independent life. I think inherently, just because you lose out on choice and agency the moment you step out of the time loop, you will have a larger regret when you opt out, because now you know that there is no further possibility of fixing him. Maybe it was that one extra loop that I didn't take that would have taken for me to grow old and have gray hair with Jonathan. This is the kind of regret that you're able to live down when you die, and when you die for good, you will die with a regret. I don't think this is something that you want to do. Look, people believe in God, in a benevolent God, despite all of the evil and suffering of this world pointing out otherwise. Liberals believe in a capitalist free market system, despite the fact that it has produced an incredibly cruel world in which everyone struggles to afford to live. People have conviction in things in spite of the evidence to the contrary all of the time, because they believe in these belief systems, because it is what gives them comfort, because it is what imbues their life with meaning, because they will hold on to that no matter what. At the very least, love is the most noble ideology, the last one in which you cling on. I say you stay in the loop.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Now let's move on towards third affirmative here.
Okay, am I audible?
Yep, you're audible.
Okay, please give me a moment while I arrange my notes, set up timer, and etc. Okay, setting up timer. Okay. Now my speech will start in 3, 2, and okay, sorry, wait. My speech will start in 3, 2, and 1. Okay, now the thing that the opposition team have stated is love is again codependency, right? Because what do you mean if a love person died and you have the chance? Okay, sure, you might take it, but again, of what we know from Sora and what we know of Jonathan and what we know of the situation, I'm going to explain to you panels why it is not worth it. Now, before that, I'm going to give several responses towards the things that the opposition tips has stated. Now, they've stated something about hopeless romantics and how love is such a beautiful thing, and Sora is given this beautiful chance by the universe and she should take it, right? But from what we know of, this is real life. We're talking about what if this happens in real life, right? In real life, a lot of love stories actually ends in a tragic way, right? Sure. Okay. Now they've also stated that how even if this time loop, even if he dies, it's more time, right? We get to spend more time with the loved one, and that is worth it. But the thing is, even in this scenario, though, you are given the chance to go back to where he hasn't even known you yet. So you have to go through all of that again. You have to reintroduce yourself. You have to explain so many things and all over again, right? So in this loop, right, because what do we know of right now, right? Sora goes back to the loop and we see her maybe going into this loop for like 6 months until 2 years, right? This is no longer, how do you call it? This is no longer something that is beautiful anymore because this is something frustrating to do. It's no longer all butterflies, right? Because there's this one montage of when Sora comes back to see Jonathan again. She comes to hug her she comes to hug him because she hasn't seen him in so long, and she is like, "Oh no, you died," and etc. But he pushed her away because, like, who the hell are you? I don't know you at all, right? So now she has to go through all of that again. She has to re-explain herself. She has to break him up with his current girlfriend and etc. This is more of an act of emotional labor than it is an act of love. This is no longer about love. This is about codependency and being that desperate attempt on taking you back into my life to make my life easier, right? Now, saying that all of this torment is worth it because opting out gives more regret. Now, this is not true in our side of the house. Why? Because opting out, as we are opting out of this time loop because we know what we are worth. We know who we are without Jonathan itself. We know that God will take what he wants to take, right? Even in this mechanism alone, time is what? What is time? What does time want? At the end, also he goes mad and crazy and etc. to the point where Sora is disappear out of thin air. We don't know what happened to her. We don't know what happened to Sora that's stuck in that time loop. Did she die? Did she disappear or anything? We do not know. Did she wake up? We do not know, right? So all of this effort and for what? For Sora to take that all of the consequences of Jonathan's action on her own self, right? And what does Jonathan do? She just goes back and fixes his life because of his own. It's not even about Sora at all anymore at this point, right? Now, they've also stated about how opting out means we're letting him die and that we're avoiding helping him out. As already stated from the previous my previous speaker, this has already happened, right? Because Sora, as we know, has already spent this much time married and dating Jonathan and helping him and encouraging him to get out of this unhealthy lifestyle, and then it still failed, right? This already gives you so many context on how Jonathan is a hot-headed person that will not listen to her because the change is actually going to happen the change is only going to happen if he wants it to, right? Because in our side of the house, we are already acknowledging the fact that we are not to be burdened by the responsibilities of other people. We are not burdened by the choices and the recklessness of this other person because we are our own person, right? Again, because this time loop exists, it already gives zero chance for Sora to move on anyway, to explore what she has in her life. Even in the movie itself, because of this time loop, we have zero idea what Sora is. We have no idea what her family looks like. We have no idea if she has friends. All we know is that she is a good designer, and that's all because of the exhaustion that she already had in this time loop itself. Right, in this time loop itself, also she spent months away from Jonathan because of how exhausted she is, right? So it's not even about love anymore. It's about codependency and also control because you need this person to do exactly what you said because you need this person, not because you love him, not because you want him, you want to see him happy and thriving and etc. But because you need him to exist and to live in your life, right? No, this is already stated so many times before, but I will now explain to you why it is such a better option for Sora to opt out from the time loop in the first place, right? So because Sora obviously has self-esteem issues that she does not know who she is. Even us as an audience, we don't know who she is or what she does or etc. Because all of the movie is so fixated on saving and so focused on her mission in saving Jonathan in the first place, right? Right, because that is what dependency looks like, and he also does not really care about her. What do we know? What kind of care has Jonathan shown in Sora in the movie? Nothing at all, right? Sure, he takes photographs of her and etc. Yada yada yada. But it is more of Sora doing all the emotional labor or doing all these stressful things, doing all this sleeping out in the cold because she needs to convince Jonathan and etc. Right? And also in our house, we are acknowledging more that self-love is a lot more important than spouse's love, right? Because that is going to happen anyway. We have to be able to have our own identity outside of the relationship that we have, because we are so then we are going to learn on how to live with ourselves and not needing that other person. Because taking this chance, meaning you are going to give your everything, your life. You're not seeing your parents anymore. You're not seeing your friends anymore, right? You're not going to go on your career anymore. All of your life is going to be dedicated only for saving this person, a person who does not even want to be saved. So what are you even investing in, right? Because you know your husband more than anyone else. He does not want this. Why would you want that? You want that for yourself, not for him, right? This on its own is already a selfish act. Okay, my thoughts is running low. Now, again, I'm going to explain to you why this time loop is so harmful. Again, it is self-harm. It is clearly an act of self-harming emotionally, because you are ignoring all of your own emotional needs to give it to someone else, to give it to your partner, and you're taking too much burden. You are giving yourself the guilt of someone else's death for someone else's decisions, which is again all Jonathan's action, by the way, and also the survival guilt, and also all the exhaustion from this time loop for doing all of this for someone else and not giving any space for yourself to process any of this grief, to process any of the feelings that you are feeling, right? We propose to invent more in self, and we appreciate life and not play God, and actually letting life play as it was intended. Okay, and that is why we are so proud to propose. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Now let's move on towards third negative. Here.
Yeah, turn on the camera because everyone's doing it as well. Oh, yeah, I just chat. Okay. I'll begin. Yes. 3, 2, 1. First, some responses. Second, I'm going to explain what exactly is the regret of Sore when Jonathan died in her first life, I guess. Third, why it's unlikely that Sore will be able to live a normal life because of guilt, but second, generally just you just do not have the support group and all of that stuff. First, I think government cannot just fiat that when you opt out of the time loop, suddenly you treat everything as a dream and you do not think that it's real. We say that no, when you opt out of this, you feel like everything was real. You treat everything as real lived experience. You know that this was an active choice that you have made. Therefore, any type of guilt, any type of repercussions that you potentially feel, that will be real. Second, why is it that what exactly did Sora regret when she lost Jonathan her first life? The reason as to why people always say that they want to grow old with someone, and they regret not being able to have that is because precisely of time. This is the reason why we have movies, for example, like Draco Malfoy saying that he would give up the world just to have another 5 minutes with his deceased wife once more, where Romeo and Juliet would rather die than live in a world where they cannot be together, where they're separated by death and time. Because you try so desperately to find pieces of themselves, to cling onto them. That is why throughout history, kings and emperors have made monuments, paintings of their lovers, exactly what Audie has said. Because even if death is inevitable, as all humans do die someday, some maybe die to illness, some do accidents, old age, you still try as much as possible to have time. Because as government also agrees that people will die, then what exactly is the regret here is that not because they died in and of itself, but precisely because you do not have time with them. This is precisely because you do not have their touch, their voice, their presence anymore. And this is what we as opposition push for. Why is it that now you feel tortured I think government tries to tell you that, you will also be tired, you will feel tortured because of, disappointment and all of your effort, like all of your labor. Why is that specific harm and that specific burden and pain so much better than the pain of asking yourself constantly, what if? What if one more time I'll be able to change? What if one more time I'll be able to find another method? Because first layer is that the ability to be stuck and not having the ability to change your pain, which is that what if, is torture unlike anything. It is torture to know your lover has died and nothing, no matter how much you grieve, no matter how much you rage, nothing, absolutely nothing within your power can and will change anything. And nothing I do will free me of my suffering. That is the reason why this is horrible. Because you have that abysmal, even a very, very small chance, thinking that you can change something, that your actions can create change, that is precisely the thing that liberates you from your pain. We say that this is something, this pain exists in government and only liberated on our side. But yes, POI.
How then Sore is actually going to be, relive her life and everything under your side and also fix this thing with Jonathan?
I think Audie gave you a really good mechanism already, as in this life, you try to live up until the moment he dies, trying to change as much as possible, but maybe this time you want to be the designer that you want. Maybe in another chance, you want to be a girl boss CEO, and then the other time you make him to be your house husband. I don't know. There are still methods for you to live out your life, because I think what she wanted was a life with Jonathan, right? But that does not necessarily mean she cannot have a job, right? But second, most importantly, the second layer here is that this pain of what if doesn't stem from your inability anymore. You cannot change things like God, because now you do have it, right? You have literally the inhuman ability to reverse time. That now it's your choice. It's your choice to give up on Jonathan. It's your choice that forever robs you of another life with him, that you left Jonathan to die. What does this mean? First, you will forever feel guilty. I think the basic logic here that government also agrees is that you feel more guilty over something that you could have prevented rather than things that are outside of your control. But even if not, there are still things like survival skills that still exist, feeling that you could have done more. This is precisely something that exists. Second is that you can never grieve properly or even say that Jonathan gave up on me, that's why I left. Because look, Jonathan does not know better that he will die young, but you do. You have the knowledge, but also the capacity to try to prevent this, and you gave up on Jonathan. And if the trade-off from government is that say that, she's tired, we say that this is a much preferable tiredness in comparison, because at the very least, you can do things by not being tired. You can take a rest. This is something that you can change, but this pain never goes away under government side. But look, how is it that you can never live a normal life? Government tries to say that you can do things like therapy groups to cope or whatever. Therapists will not understand you. Like, imagine going to a therapist and say that, hey, my hypothetical future husband will die and that gives me trauma. I think they will just think that you're insane. Your friends and families will also not be able to give you that comfort either, because they're like, what the fuck are you even talking about? There will definitely be informational gap that will always exist. You cannot meaningfully comfort someone if you don't even know what's happening, and you cannot even tell them. Trauma and pain can only change and move on when you either, one, you fix it, which is like you make sure Jonathan lives, or you're able to basically put it into words and actually get comfort, which again is impossible, right? People can never justify your choice either, right? Society will always churn out stories like Draco Malfoy saying that he would do anything for another 5 minutes. You will constantly be reminded. Society as a whole has never been given the chance that you have, because people would say that they would burn the world for the same chance that you got, and you have completely disregarded this. You will never find any justification. But even if you want to say that, you could potentially get a new lover, right? Your new lover will also not be able to understand you. Why is it that she has such a big trauma against alcohol or smoking? Why does she have such a big reaction towards the idea of dying? These types of things will never bring you solace. I think what we've already proven to you here is, one, I think the pain will never go away under government side, because at the very least on our side, the pain of being tired is something that can go away, right? But second is that even if you try, to live a good life, which government has never really explained what kind of a good life or what kind of life she even wants. We are the ones who actually prove to you that any other life outside of this is not going to be good. Therefore, oppose.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Let's move on towards negative reply. Here.
Okay. Negative reply starting in 3, 2, 1. No doom lover arrives at their tragic ending believing that it would have been better if they hadn't loved. Because to love is to believe that your story will be different. That what you have with your other half is special and unique and worth fighting for. Even if you know that they will die, you cling on to that hope. You believe in one more loop. You believe that it's this other thing that you haven't tried that will save Jonathan. And even if you slowly realize that it is impossible to save Jonathan, you say that the thing that every lover say on their deathbed, right? In sickness and health, whether rich or poor. No matter what, I don't regret you. I will always choose you in spite of all of the pain and suffering and grief that choosing you causes because I love you, because that is what love is. 5 pathways to victory attempted by the government here and why we overtake them. The first pathway is that they say that the emotional labor that you need to commit every time the time loop reset and you need to reintroduce yourself to Jonathan is incredibly exhausting and you will just grow tired of this. I don't think this is necessarily true because, like, you love this person. You will want to do all of those, like, all of those ridiculous, tiring things, right? Like, and even if we say that, yeah, sure, after you will start to like notice the fact that it is tiring, you will make it more efficient. You carry the memory of your previous life. You know what he likes, you know what he dislikes, you know all of the information that you gain through all of those previous lives of literally spending 30 years, no, wait, sorry, like 3 years with him until he dies. Like, you can make it more efficient. You can also try new stuff. You love him. I think it's fine. This exhaustion is nowhere near comparable to the primary thing that we say is the outcome of you letting go, which is that regret and limerence, right? Second attempt is them by saying, like, staying in the loop means you stop learning to live by yourself and you are extending your codependency with him. One, I think in the status quo, you only accept having to live by yourself because there is no other option. You kind of have to either, like, learn to do it or kill yourself. But I don't think you can arbitrarily prefer independence over codependency in a world in which it is possible for you to infinitely extend that codependency. Why must you choose to deny yourself the pleasure of, like, all of these infinite lifetimes with him just on the idea that independence might be arbitrarily better than codependency? Sure, they can characterize this as codependency. We say that it's good that the universe is allowing you to be codependent with this person infinitely, right? Third attempt then is them essentially saying that the survivor's guilt of putting yourself and Jonathan through the infinite torture of dying and grieving for each other over and over again means that probably you will want to stop doing this. I think for Sore, grief kind of doesn't exist because, believe me, I know how to characterize grief. Grief is about mourning the what if, the time you lose, the opportunities, the memories, and the happiness that you cannot share in the future with this person. You wish they hadn't died so you can have all of this. Yeah, they're not dying because you reset back to a time before their death. You will regret letting go then because there is always, but you will not regret seeing him die because you know there is always the next loop, because you will feel more guilty for giving up on him. There is this concept of limerence, right? You lose out on 100% of the shots that you don't take. I think knowing that you've tried and can try again means that grief just simply doesn't exist for a time looping. Sorry. Fourth attempt is that they say you can be a career woman if you just move on, right? Like, this is a possible feminist extension, but they didn't properly impact this. I say this is simply not exclusive. You can be a career woman and say, Jonathan, you're gonna be a household. I know you love me. I know you will accept this, and, like, you can have that career. I don't see why this is an exclusive to their side. Last piece of weighing that is that what about Jonathan and what he wants? One, he's a man, we don't care. But two, he is ignorant of the time loop. This is about you, your love for him. This is a unique burden that you and only you exclusively carry because you are the only one who carry the burden of all of those past lives into the next loop. I don't think he is harmed because to him, he is experiencing all of this for the first time. He has a woman who loves him. The quality of his life is improved, if anything. For all of this reason, choose to love.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Now let's move on towards affirmative reply to end the whole debate. Here.
Testing if I'm audible.
Yep, you're audible.
Okay, hold on. Starting in 3, 2, and 1. Opposition's case is all about how this will reclaim Sore's beloved one, but they never prove how this will actually happen because we've proved to you that Sore already tries to fix Jonathan in her past life and she still fails anyway in this recent timeline by the fact that Jonathan is actually reckless and everything. When you're actually going to the loop, you're going to relive this terror of Jonathan being reckless. He wouldn't listen to you anyways. What is the point of evaluation under your side? It's not really clear, right? All benefit of living life till the gray hair with him won't even happen because there is time limit of the loop. It exactly happens in the movie, and you know that this moment is actually temporary. There's no kind of like a make up scenery or whatever because eventually it's going to end in anyways because you're going to perish or this whole memory or this whole time loop is going to actually perish from the whole world and you are going to be so as well. And then about the point of grief, then, I think in opposition, you'll be responsible of Jonathan's life. If you fail, survivor's guilt is going to be inflicted in Sore because she has been given the chance to relive the moment or to fix his fate. Yet she failed again, making the guilt more critical and everything. Because under government, you will be grieving as well. But as time goes by, Sore will carry it out by designing hobby or etc. Simply because the reason the thing that Sore loved is not only Jonathan, but also designing and probably any other thing that is actually a reference in the movie. I don't watch the movie. But with lesser time and touch point with the terror of Jonathan has died narrative, you'll be able to forget him and focus on Sore's oneself. While on your side, okay, you have more time with Jonathan, for example. After you escape from this time loop, for example, you're still going to, have this kind of desperate feeling of wanting to having more time with him or whatsoever. It's going to be an endless time loop or whatsoever. You're not going to be move on or whatsoever. We also didn't see Jonathan is that pretty much critical towards Sora's life anyways because they never proved to you about what is actually the role of Jonathan towards their role, right? And second, then it's about the point of self-harm. In opposition, you will relive this again to see Jonathan who already dead. Sora will be harmed with Jonathan's feeling has with Jonathan's feeling that have been reset, which is the state where Jonathan never fall in love with Sora itself. Sora will need to build his love to her, even if you want to relive romance with them as how opposition wanted. It's not going to be there simply because you have to claim your love from the very first place, and you'll be actually exhausted simply because you have to scrambling it around or doing the same scenarios all over the time anyways. Also in the end of the time, you will actually go to Paris. So what is actually good in that, right? But in government, at least Sore have experienced Jonathan's love and feel enough in doing so. It's actually going to give you a moment of rejoices and thankfulness towards what is actually happening towards these scenarios of me loving Jonathan and Sore. And this moment is actually happening in therapies and she's actually going to vent this through her hobby, for example, and so on. So I think this carry of how you're going to accept your life without Jonathan because you're better off towards him is actually likely and proved well under government. And in case of this, we do believe that yes, Sorel is actually better enough without Jonathan. But yes, Sorel do love Jonathan, and it's really important. But it's time to move on. That is the actual case from the government, right? And then we don't understand why opposition pushes to enjoy a moment. You need to relive it anyway because I don't see about how it's actually going to be pricing and everything because you know that okay, Jonathan has already been dead. That is the thing that you're going to scramble out of your mind. It's not going to be love. Thank you. About to propose. Oh my God, sorry.
All right. Thank you very much for that speech. That marks the end of the debate. It also marks the end of the Varsity finals of AuAsians. Woo! Right. Wait. Let me